Torrey D. Adler, John W. Alden Sr., John William Alden II, Savannah Rose Alden, John P. Almeida, Matthew D. Aquaro, Jean G. Argento, Michael P. Armstrong, Ingrid Maria Barry, William J. Bill Bates Jr., Janet L. Bennett, Maureen A. Bernard, Louis J. Bernazzani, Anna Flynn Bertini, Antonio G. Betancourt, Richard M. Betancourt Jr., Tenley Page Bevins, Cheryl A. Billings, John W. Billings, Richard A. Bolduc, William E. Bradstreet, Amy Butler, Alice Marie Campbell, Joan L. Chain, Christine J. Cheatham, Lawrence P. Chisholm, Jennifer L. Churchill, James M. Simon, Kathleen L. Simon, Peter E. Clement, Matthew P. Cocciati, Annette Y. Collins, Claire T. Conway, Robert F. Cummings Jr., Priscilla W. Curta, Glenn M. Dagley, Andrea J. Daly, Douglas P. Daly, Charles C. Dame Jr., Peter G. DeVicos II, Christopher J. Dembowski, Jean N. Dempsey, Dutrat J. Doiko, Timothy T. Donahue, John W. Duffel III, Matthew E. Duggan, Wayne H. Eisenhower, Colleen Lynch Eldridge, John Philip Farmer, Natalie Luca Fiore, Linda J. D. Flaherty, William F. Fowey, David A. Fraser, Arthur J. Francis, Daniel A. Gagnon, Ronald A. Gagnon, Robert A. Gamer, Janet L. Gargan, Daniel J. Gary Jr., Joan M. George, Edward J. Gibbons, Tim J. Gray, Ryan P. Griffiths, Dana Michael Hagan, Mark C. Hannon, Marilyn E. Hazel, Jamie Smith Henry, William K. Hersey, Cheryl James, John L. Jaworski, Mark Mead Jones, David Kennison, Carla E. King, Elizabeth F. Clem, Theodore Contos, Mary Ann G. Kowalski, Sandra A. Sandy Lane, Elizabeth E. LaPointe, Rebecca Sims Lee, Ellen M. LaFavor, Charles L. Lincecum, Daniel E. Mackey, Vincent J. Mackey, Donna M. Martin, Charles A. Martins, Michael Matvichuk, Alan D. McCarriston, Sharon C. McManus, Nancy A. McNulty, Paul A. McNulty, Eric R. Midricky, Roberta A. Mercier, Mark B. Mazzina, Nelson F. Moran, James V. Morose, Michael E. Morris, Karen J. Nelson, William L. Nicholson, Ross Nizieski, Deborah K. Nicolini. Deborah? Okay. Richard J. Parker, Joyce P. Powanski, Michael W. Powers, Roger A. Powers, William M. Prentice, Nancy R. Purcell, Kenneth B. Reardon, Kevin T. Rourke, W. Coley Rybicki, Nova D. Semidai, Deborah F. Sauer, Thomas M. Savage, Kenneth G. Scholes Jr., James M. Sears, Peter Z. Schabowitz, Sonia M. Schafferville, Arthur P. Scamius, Charles E. Smith, Kerry C. Smith Julian, George H. Snow, Elizabeth Lisa Stockman, Richard A. Stoney, Richard D. Stoney, Robert Sullivan, Peter H. Swift, Ralph E. Swift, Eldon Peter Swindell, Bruce A. Sims, Jackson Carroll Tingle, Janice R. Typett, Monica L. Typett, Richard B. Trask, Kathleen Turcott, James P. Tutko, Josephine M. Yuminski, Alan Weeks, Peter J. Wilson, Kevin T. Wood, John S. Zavalia, Mark M. Zubarik, Daniel C. Bennett, William H. Clark Jr., Diane M. Langlace, David Mills, and Gardner S. Trask III. Is there any others that had come in?
"107 members announcing their presence. I now declare the presence of a quorum." Yes. Thank you. Anyone else? So that takes us up to 110.
Who was it, Gina Argento?
Argento and 3.
Charles Smith, 109?
Yeah. I'm sorry, 109. There's my math. Yeah, it's Iowa. Okay. 109 members answering their presence. I now declare the presence of a quorum. I would like everyone to please stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to welcome two guests this evening, our state representative, Ted Speliotis, and our state senator, Joan Lovely, who are both in the back of the room. Before we begin tonight's formal meeting, I'd like to take a few moments to recognize a few individuals who are here this evening. The first would be Selectman Diane Langley. She has announced that she is not running for re-election, so this will be her last town meeting as a selectman. So congratulations. Job well done, Diane. Secondly, I'd like to recognize our fire chief, Bob Pyburn. This is his last town meeting. He's retiring shortly after 33 years in service. Congratulations, Chief. And last but not least, and I'll start this with a story. Peter Miranda, as everyone knows, is retiring. They had a little coffee for him at Town Hall. and I pulled into the town parking lot about 9:10 this morning, and there were two beautiful fire trucks parked out front with their lights going, and I thought to myself, what a nice tribute to Peter Miranda. Lo and behold, somebody had been stuck in the elevator, so naivete. So last but not least, I would like to take a moment, please, to recognize Peter Miranda. Peter is our Veteran Service Officer and has been a public health director. He's got 29 years and 11 months of service. This not only is Peter's last town meeting, but to show what a dedicated public servant that he is, this is actually his last day of work. So I would like to recognize Peter. Congratulations on your retirement, Peter. Job well done. Thank you. Do all members have a copy of the warrant articles and the recommendation of the Finance Committee? If you don't, we have several copies up front. I'll now appoint tellers for each precinct. Precinct 1 is Nellie Moran. Precinct 2, John Jaworski. Precinct 3, Joan George. Precinct 4, Beth Clem. Precinct 5, Charlie Dame. Precinct 6, Bruce Sims. Precinct 7, Richard Trask. And Precinct 8, Bill Nicholson. Tellers should be certain to count votes in their own votes, and the teller from Precinct 1 should be sure to count the votes of the members of the Board of Selectmen. We have to go review the rules of the road tonight. For the benefit of new members as well as others, the chair will review the matters of information and instruction relative to the conduct of this meeting, most of which are procedural. The chair will read each article or summary thereof aloud, which will be followed by a recommendation from the Finance Committee. The recommendation of the Finance Committee is the main motion. Town meeting members shall usually speak on all motion before any others. However, any citizen voter in town will be permitted to speak after town meeting members have done so. As is tradition, all members addressing the body are asked to use the microphone. In special circumstances, the chair may permit a committee chairman or the sponsor of an article or some other person such as town council to speak before others for the purpose of information or other explanation. The meeting, if it wishes, may change the order of discussion of articles in the warrant by majority vote. The chair reminds all present that no person may speak without permission of the chair and that no speaker may be interrupted except for a point of order or privilege. All questions addressed to any other person present must go through the chair. Yes, sir. I'm getting the thumbs up from behind. Oh, perfect. I haven't said anything all that important anyway. Neither cross-examination nor reference to personalities will be permitted. They are out of order. The chair retains the authority at all times to rule certain questions and comments irrelevant to the meeting, and direct controversies between speakers are an affront to the dignity of the town meeting and will not be tolerated. All proposed amendments must be in writing with a copy given to the town clerk, and the reason for this is purely for the sake of clarity, so we all know what we're voting for or against, and in order that a main motion after amendment can be clearly stated by the chair prior to voting. Specific instructions concerning voting procedure. The chair will, from time to time, recite specific requirements for votes on certain motions. As a reminder, in June 1998, the town meeting voted to adopt Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 15, to authorize the moderator to declare adoption without count any vote requiring a two-thirds vote. Most of our voting is conducted on a voice vote basis. If the chair has doubt of the result of the voice vote, the chair will ask for a standing vote. Standing votes are taken by precinct, with each precinct teller reciting aloud his or her tally of those in favor, those opposed. The total of all precincts is then announced by the chair. If 7 members rising in place indicate they have doubt, the chair will ask for a standing vote. After the chair has made the announcement, the vote may not be questioned. Roll call voting. A roll call vote may be taken on any motion when the following conditions have been met. A motion must be made for a roll call vote at the conclusion of debate or after a voice vote has been taken. The motion must be seconded. Passage of the motion for the roll call requires a majority vote. A motion for a roll call vote may not be made after a standing vote has been taken and the results announced by the chair. Interruption of any method of voting will be considered out of order. The chair requests that all persons with cell phones or other electronic devices kindly place the device in silent mode or turn it off. As always, no smoking is permitted on school grounds. I would like to call your attention to the location of the emergency exits in the room, which are clearly marked, and on either side of the room in the front of the rear and the rear. The chair asks for the cooperation of those citizens who are not town meeting members to please refrain from taking part in voice votes. The return of the warrant indicates it was properly served. There is a motion by Diane Langley that the chair omit the reading of the warrant, which has been seconded by Dan Bennett. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. I now ask you to please go to our warrant, which begins on page 1. Article 1, unpaid bills. To see what sum the town will vote to appropriate for the payment of certain unpaid bills for previous years or take any other action thereon. Mr. Chairman.
We recommend that the town vote to appropriate sums for the payment of certain unpaid bills for previous years as follows. From Land Use and Community Services Office Equipment Maintenance to Tri-State Hood and Duct, $450, and Recreation Endicott Park Maintenance to Northeast Nursery, $38.
Is there any discussion? This requires a 9/10 vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Article 2, budget transfers, fiscal 2019. To see if the town will vote to amend the actions taken under Article 2 of the May 20th, 2019 annual town meeting by adding certain appropriations or by reducing certain appropriations, by transfer among accounts, by transfer from prior appropriation under article, or from available funds, or take any other action thereon. Mr. Chairman.
We recommend that the town vote to amend the vote taken under Article 2 of the May 20th, 2019 annual town meeting by increasing certain appropriations or by reducing certain appropriations, by transfer among accounts, by transfer from prior appropriations under articles, or from available funds as follows. From department head salaries and wages to HR salaries and wages, $22,000, and from department head salaries and wages to HR personnel administration, $8,000.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Article 3, State Public Works Grant. To see what sum the town will vote to appropriate for public works projects, such sum to be reimbursed by the State Transportation Bond Bill or take any other action thereon. Mr. Chairman.
We recommend that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $89,494 for public works projects, such sum to be reimbursed by the State Transportation Bond Bill.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Article 4, land swap. To see if the town will vote, Section 1, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court to enact legislation substantially in the following form, see Appendix 4.2, page 4, provided that the General Court may reasonably vary the form and substance of the requested legislation within the scope of the general public objectives of the petition, and Section 2, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to act within the scope and the intent of the general public objectives of the petition to the General Court, Appendix 4.3, page 5, or take any other action thereon. Mr. Chairman.
We recommend that the town vote to authorize, 1, the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court to enact legislation in substantially the following form as indicated on Appendix 4.2, page 4, provided that the General Court may reasonably vary the form and substance of the requested legislation within the scope of the general public objectives of the petition, and 2, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to act within the scope and intent of the general public objectives of the petition to the General Court, Appendix 4.3, page 5.
Is there any discussion? This requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Article 5, character-based zoning districts. To see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaws and zoning map by moving Section 18, Maple Street Traditional Neighborhood Development Overlay District, to empty Section 22, inserting a new Section 18, character-based zoning districts, inserting new Section 19, Danvers Town Center Core District, inserting new Section 20, Danvers Town Center Live Work District, inserting new Section 21, High Street Corridor Mixed Use District, and other technical changes required to maintain internal consistency within the zoning bylaw or take any other action thereon. Mr. Chairman,
We recommend that the town vote to amend the zoning bylaw and zoning map by moving Section 18, Maple Street Traditional Neighborhood Development Overlay District, to empty Section 22, inserting new Section 18, Character-Based Zoning Districts, inserting new Section 19, Danvers Town Center Core District, inserting new Section 20, Danvers Town Center Live Work District, inserting new Section 21, High Street Corridor Mixed Use District, and other technical changes required to maintain internal consistency within the zoning bylaw as approved and voted by the Planning Board on December 10th, 2019, and subsequently amended and voted by the Finance Committee on January 14th, 2020.
thank you. We'll begin the discussion tonight by my recognizing the Chair of the Board of Selectmen, Dan Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. My name is Dan Bennett. I'm this year's Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. After the successful zoning in 2017, the Board of Selectmen asked the Planning Board to look at downtown and High Street corridor together and not in a vacuum. We actually thought that they would complete the work in 2019, but I want to thank the Planning Board, the Chair Bill Prentice, and staff for taking the extra time needed to complete the work to develop the districts in downtown. You, as the town meeting body, if you approve the amendments to our zoning bylaw tonight, it will create predictability for development for the next 30 years, and I urge you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll next recognize the Chairman of the Planning Board, Bill Prentice. Prentice.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Bill Prentice, Planning Board Chair and Town Meeting Precinct 1. The proposal before you this evening is a continuation of the process started in 2006 to update our Industrial 1 zoning districts. It builds on the successful effort in December 2017 to rezone the upper end of the square from Industrial 1 to mixed use with appropriate densities and design guidelines, offering a more complete view of how we want the downtown to function now and in the future. It represents 18 months of work by the Planning Board and staff and more than a dozen public hearings, site walks, and workshops, as well as hundreds of individual conversations with residents in and out of the target areas. By way of background, our zoning code was created in 1946, and much of our current zoning was put in place in the decades after World War II. Current industrial uses permitted in downtown include heavy manufacturing, warehousing, fuel storage, boat storage, car washes, and wholesaling. We aren't seeing applications for uses like these, but they are approved by right. For a community our size, where a majority of land is either developed or protected, updating these districts represents an opportunity to set the table for the next several business cycles of redevelopment and reinvestment in our downtown. An overall change in demographics and long-term change in business land use has created an outdated industrial and commercial zone in these areas and is subsequently driving the market for residential use to be available to live downtown, within walking distance of jobs, food, services, and the like. Under current zoning, this is only achievable through findings or variance with ZBA. Since 2010, we've seen close to 80 units built or under construction on Holton, Cherry, Locust, and Maple that are either mixed use or residential in nature that would have been subject to a predictable and consistent approval process under this character-based zoning proposal. If we do nothing, these types of projects will continue to be proposed, but that puts an unfair pressure on the ZBA to do the work of the Planning Board and the town meeting. The projects will continue to be built out of context, in isolation, and with varying results in unpredictable densities, transitions, and design features. A year ago, the Selectmen challenged the Planning Board to prepare zoning amendments, not just for I-1 district on High Street, which was the initial plan, but also on C1 and C1A districts in the square, providing an overall vision for Danvers downtown for decades to come. This proposal before you tonight does just that. Ground level issues like parking, traffic, water use, infrastructure demands are addressed in this zoning change, and will continue to require active and ongoing management and consideration. These proposed zoning updates strike an appropriate balance between density, affordability, streetscape, civil space, and a vibrant mixed-use spaces. I hope you will see fit to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Mr. Clark?
William Clark, Board of Selectmen. First of all, I want to thank the Planning Board and the Planning Department, Aaron Henry and his department, Bill Prentice and his committee for all the work they've done over the past several months and years. They have brought to us a comprehensive treatment for Maple High Street zoning, which is what we asked for, as Dan alluded to earlier. However, I've had problems with a couple of issues with this that I think are very deep. One of them is parking. The other one is traffic. There's not much we can do about traffic. We're a pass-through community from 95 to Salem or Beverly. And I'm not going to even address that because that maybe other people want to talk about that. But if you want to sit in traffic on High Street, you can do it now on many afternoons between Danvers Square and the Endicott streetlight down by Foxville School. The parking is a problem that I have. Several years ago, the Planning Department put together a proposal for a small area to be zoned, much like they've rezoned this whole area, as a trial basis, Tapleyville, bordered by Pine Street, by Colton Street, and by the rail trail. And it has been very successful in that they had a building built as a result of that that was to the exact specifications we're looking for. Commercial first floor, residential second and third floor. The residential parking was taken care of with parking behind the building. The commercial zoning for the restaurant was insufficient, has been insufficient for a long time, and caused kind of chaos in that neighborhood. I was currently reminded by an attorney at a recent meeting that commercial parking isn't included in our zoning, and I shouldn't consider it. However, residential parking is, obviously. And they have built in some factors for the residential to have 1.5 parking spaces per unit. But I just want to remind people how expensive parking is and whether or not it's going to be adhered to or whether they're going to be going to the Board of Appeals for it. I did some inquiries about parking spaces. The town manager gave me some information. It was exactly in line with what I found, that the cost per parking space for a parking garage is about $25,000 a space. I did talk this week to a person who's built a parking garage in Beverly. The charges, he said, were $26,500 to $36,000 per space. Plus, you have about a $500 per year maintenance fee or maintenance cost for an existing parking garage. We have two instances in Danvers Square where people have bought land, or companies have bought land for parking for their employees. When the Danvers Savings Bank expanded and had actually took the town off big time because they had torn down 3 houses, 2 of them against the town's will, they were very strictly regimented with their parking. And as they expanded, they bought a former Friendly's restaurant down on High Street, set up a sham training center, quotation marks, and provided 38 spaces for their employees. What did they pay for that 38 spaces? It was $2 million, a cost of over $56,000 per parking space. When they went out of business and the People's Bank wanted to rid themselves of some of their assets in town, they found a willing buyer for the same parcel, East Boston Savings Bank, who is based in the atrium, a 2-story mixed-use structure that was built with parking underneath, but it was still insufficient. And it was still insufficient after we, as a town meeting members, went and took 4 people's properties by eminent domain to make that happen. That left a real dirty taste in a lot of our mouths, that 4 people lost their property against their will to create a commercial property with a few parking spaces that ended up deemed being insufficient. If that's the best we can do, I think that the parking is a situation that has to be looked at more. I look at Cherry Street, I look at development, I looked at the, down on Purchase Street, the garden apartment down there that only required one parking space per unit. They're parking out in the street. What happens in a snowstorm? There's no provisions for snow removal or snow storage on some of the sites on Cherry Street. That's an issue. We have several small parcels in this area, this corridor. Unless you cobble several of them together, it's going to be almost impossible to do something that's not going to have a major impact on the neighboring community. And I don't think it's fair for the people who live in the Back Bay or on Gould Street or on the parts of off Park Street to be impacted by traffic as they are now, and they will be more if this is done that densely. So just to think about the future, if you want to drive that route down High Street, down Maple Street, how long is it going to take you? How many more stoplights do we need in there? How much more density do we need? There are a couple of parcels that would do quite well with underground parking, but they're limited. Basically, I wish that we address this parking issue, make it stronger so that it would enforce the fact that they have to provide 1.5 spaces per residential unit. And with that, I'd be in total support of it. Because as I told someone coming in tonight, reading this long document reminded me of John George's urban geography course, a grad course that we took several years ago. Reading all those, I don't know, I didn't see any, at the end, any credit though for where this all came from. But it was a very good document. It did remind me of college urban geography, however. Aaron, you did a great job. I'm just sorry that I'm not going to support you because of the parking issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Mr. Bates? The room will be in order, please.
Bill Bates, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 4. I rise tonight to support Article 5, character-based zoning districts. This same type of development, folks, is already happening. 44 Maple Street is going to have 5 studio apartments and 5 one-bedroom apartments. And also there's apartments being built at 20 Locust Street. What this article would do is add 89 pages of design standards and 97 pages of zoning language that did not exist when these 2 projects were approved by the 5 members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. The economy has changed. Second and third floor commercial uses are no longer practical. But residential second and third floor uses, which are not allowed right now without a special permit, are. And not only are they viable, but they're sought after by young Danvers residents, older Danvers residents, and by Danvers business owners. Please keep in mind the many meetings we went to, we have a total of 11,000 units of housing. 64%, or 7,000 of them, are single-family homes. And that's great, but we need to have a little bit different diversity of housing. This change will occur slowly, just like it has at the Hot Lot area, and that's a good thing, in my opinion and that of many others. We want it to evolve slowly. And this body approved that Hot Lot zoning in 2017. We are not looking to abandon what we have right now on Maple and High Streets. We are looking to enhance and improve in a smart growth way what this section of our town offers to all of our residents. Every vote counts. It's a 2/3 majority, I believe.
That's correct.
And so I want to address, with all due respect to Bill Clark with the parking, this study that was done in 2015, and it's about 80 pages long, is a parking study, downtown Danvers parking study, and it does denote that in that area, in the downtown area, there are over 1,700 parking spots. Parking has certainly been looked at, but keep in mind, smart growth all over the country has begun to reduce parking requirements because we've gone overboard with the need, and we've stopped good projects because they didn't have excessive parking. If you want to see a lot of parking, get down to Liberty Tree Mall and look at all the empty parking spots down there. So I don't think we can allow parking to stop such a good project. I respectfully hope that you'll consider voting yes.
Thank you. Is there further discussion?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Rick Betancourt, Precinct 5. I just said 7, I'm new to 5. I've managed a business downtown on Maple Street for almost 12 and a half, 13 years, and our downtown is getting pretty tired. And I echo some of the same sentiments as Mr. Clark and as well as Mr. Bates. I've been to many of those meetings that we've had as far as the parking issues, the concerns. We have to look at redesigning, recharacterize zoning in that area, also from a preventative measure. As it stands right now, that Maple Street where Hot Watt is, that area down there, any investor, wealthy investor, could come in there at any point in time with the way the zoning is right now, buy up all that land and put a storage facility if they so choose, which would look absolutely horrendous in that part of town. By doing what we're considering now, albeit I do believe, Mr. Clark, that there are some parking concerns. I do not believe, Mr. Bates, that the parking study that was done in 15, which I was very involved as far as those meetings, did an adequate job. They did 2 studies in July in downtown Danvers in August to assess our parking situation. And it can be quite tough down there. I've been there for a long time. So I do wish that a greater job had been done on our parking study to use for this particular issue. But in the end, I'm going to support this. I ask that you support me in supporting this as well, because I want to see our downtown thrive. I like the idea of mixed use and commercial with residential. It has been very successful in other communities, such as the Newtons, the Concords. Carlisle, I think, is another town. Situate is a very good example as well, too. However, we have to be very proactive with our planning board and our ZBA moving forward. And I actually mentioned this in our 3-hour meeting that we had just recently. I expect the ZBA to have very, very, very little wiggle room with modifying or changing any of the 97 new regulations that Mr. Bates brought up. This isn't going to be like it was in the past, where the ZBA had a wide degree of latitude to make changes to the way our town is. I've read the regulation, I've reviewed it, and they're going to be on a very, very tight leash. However, we have to do something. Otherwise, in the end, anybody can come in there and do anything they want at any time if they have the money. I applaud the planning board for doing a great job, and our town manager and his staff. I am very much in support of this. I would ask that you do the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Betancourt. Is there further discussion?
Richard Parker, Precinct 4. Everybody calls me Jack. As I came in tonight, I was handed a note about the property between Nurse's Homestead and the rail trail. I don't understand how that is relevant to the discussion we're having.
It's not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that was easy. Is there further discussion? Mr. Zubrick.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I appreciate the time that we're spending here reviewing this. But this is the legislative body that is going to either approve it or put it on hold for a future meeting. I have similar issues to some of the comments that have been made, but mine are more basic. After studying the 192 pages of overregulation, for one thing, and of very detailed design criteria, which really don't belong in a zoning amendment, it became very evident that what we're trying to do is we're trying to retain the existing zoning pockets that we have. Industrial, commercial 1, commercial 1A, or whatever it is. There are 3 or 4 pockets. And what we're being asked to do is approve a zoning change for four zones. Because Article 18 was originally approved back in 2017, which was pushed through because of the additional housing that we wanted in town. Fine. So now we're moving that over, but we have other four areas which retains the industrial, which retains the housing, which retains the commercial and commercial 1A. However, there's one stipulation in here. After going into a lot of detail, there's a sheet that shows that everything else can be permitted in those zones by special permit by the planning board. What we're being asked to do here is transfer the zoning responsibilities to the planning department or the planning board, whichever one you want to call it, it's one and the same. Both of those organizations are appointed by town management. They're not elected, or they do not respond to an elected board, similar to what zoning does. That horse went out of the barn back in 1990s when the responsibility was shifted. Therefore, I have a motion to amend the Finance Committee's motion for no action at this time. I think this is it's a very small area of our town. It's a postage stamp compared to the rest of the town, the acreage that we have. We need to resolve the issues which were brought up for density, parking, and traffic. You can talk about every single traffic study that happens, because it happens for every development, and in this case, it was developed for the purpose of supporting this kind of zoning. Traffic studies, unless they're implemented, they don't mean anything. All they do is tell you that there's going to be traffic, there's going to be additional traffic. But what are we going to do about it? What about the parking spaces? What the stipulations that have been noted in this document and in discussions that we've had at these meetings, and there were many meetings, some were attended, some were not. The parking spaces are now being sold to the developer, basically the ones that the town has purchased over the last 30 years. Look at Hot Wat, the issue in regard to the location of, which street is that? Holton Street? No. Hobart Street, Hobart. Holton, Hobart, same. So what has happened is even those spaces at the time were being discussed as being sold to the developer or provided to the developer at a certain cost because they wanted to gather some more funds for either housing or development of roads and parking. The stipulation that we have in here that's left over from Section 18 of $35,000 per unit that is being added for low-income or affordable housing, affordable housing, is way too high. Are we passing the zoning to advance affordable housing? You are absolutely right that we need to do something, but this is something that needs to be verified and explored of what the results are from the Hot Wat area that we passed 2 years ago. We haven't seen any results yet. We don't know what the effects are going to be of that type of congested, dense housing. So I ask that we amend the motion.
So you're making
To
a
no
formal motion to amend.
Correct. And
To-
I will pass this on. This is very, very
So there's a motion to amend the Finance Committee recommendation to no action. Is there a second?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just to follow up, I like this mic better. Just to follow up, the motion is not to kill this. We are going to do something. But I think we need to determine what is best for that stretch of road that we're traveling on every day. I can't get out of my neighborhood onto 62 because now they've increased the traffic to St. John's Prep. Traffic flows from both directions, from Beverly to Middleton, Middleton to Beverly on different cycles. What are we going to do about that? And should we do something about that before we start implementing additional dense housing? Because that's going to add on to our traffic issues. So, Mr. Clark, I agree with you. And I also heard at the selectmen's meeting that there are some concerns, but the thing is that we need to look at the whole environment of what's going on downtown. And I've been corrected many times that downtown is not as derelict as I originally said. It is worn. It needs attention. But this is not the attention that we need. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this juncture, there's a motion of no action that has been seconded. So the debate now turns to this proposed amendment of no action. Is there discussion on the motion to amend to no action? That's what we're discussing right now.
I didn't want to leave without saying hello and goodbye to everybody. And Mr. Zubrick, thank you for giving me the opportunity once again to say we totally disagree. First off, I want to thank the planning board. You said it right. They went over and above their call of duty with the great design and the streetscape and the wind tunnels and what have you. They did more work than most planning boards have done in a long time because people have complained about what's the plan. They did it. They did a hell of a job doing it. 20 years I worked on getting the rail trail. And for 20 years I was told it was the wrong thing. It was going to cause all these problems in town. Now people think we're going too slow expanding it. They love it. They want it. It's a beautiful thing. And it's part of the downtown design. This didn't just happen 5 years ago. 5 years was the actual zoning. Before that, we brought in liquor licenses. We brought in the rail trail. When I was a kid, you parked your car, you got out, and you walked around and did your shopping, and you socialized. And sometimes you even walked downtown without a car. The parking study was perfect, spot on for what people have been saying. We have parking. We've done a lousy job of accessing it. And in this plan with the zoning is a way to make it come together. You don't just go fix one little thing and hope it fixes everything else. That's not what we did here. We took too long. It's been driving me crazy. But as I see it come together, I see that we brought in how we're going to bring in businesses, how we're going to bring in walking, how we're going to access parking, and for goodness sakes, beautify the downtown. It is not beautiful. Our town, this is Danvers. Our town is beautiful, beautiful homes, beautiful schools, beautiful buildings, and not a beautiful downtown. I look forward to going downtown and doing errands and saying hi to somebody instead of on that darn social media, actually face-to-face with people you haven't seen in a long time. I think I got it all. Please, Mr. Zubrick, I went to his meeting, I answered every question. He has had access to the town manager, the selectmen, the planning board, and anybody else in town hall that he wanted to talk to. But if there isn't a microphone, he's not there.
Diane, I'm going to have to caution you, that's a personal comment, that's out of line.
Thank you. I apologize, but
Thank you.
I really believe that downtown, this plan is a great start. Is it going to need tweaking? Probably. But you can't tweak until you start. So I really would hope that you will deny the motion and pass the main motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Mr. Nicholson?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Bill Nicholson, Precinct 8. I'm here to discuss the amendment because I'm already sold on the main motion, but I'll discuss the amendment in a moment. Why should we, after all the time the planning board, the planning department, all the meetings we've had, and successfully attended by many people. This is like the 11th hour to put the dog out and hope he doesn't run away. I wasn't going to speak tonight because I thought this thing would fly. And suddenly someone puts an amendment for no action. You realize how irrelevant that is, no action? I hope you shout the amendment down overwhelmingly, get to the main motion and pass it overwhelmingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Mr. Jaworski?
Thank you, Madam Secretary. My name is John Jaworski. I'm a precinct representative in Precinct 2. I've been a resident of Danvers for 40 years. My children have passed through the Danvers school system. I love being in Danvers. It's a great community, and this is an example of civic involvement that's part of this community. But I think that anytime these types of projects come up in any town, there are always issues, whether it be parking, whether it be traffic, whether it be something else. And I think in response to the amendment and in response to the overall article, I think it's really, but to me, it's really about the future. Do we have the vision to look at where Danvers is going to be down the road? And I look at the time that the committees have spent putting this together, the hours, the transparency, that I feel that they have considered that in their attempt to move Danvers in the direction of where we want to be as a community, as a future, is right behind those deliberations that they've had. As we all know, housing needs have changed in a very short period of time. Living patterns have changed. Commercial demands have changed. And I think that this proposal and this article speaks to all those types of needs and how Danvers will respond to that changing atmosphere in not only Danvers, but throughout the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Mr. Betancourt?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. In regards to the motion for no action, I find it very difficult to come up to this mic, make a motion of no action with no clear course of reaction on the no action article, or amendment, my apologies. When we have a planning board and a staff that have done a phenomenal job putting together over 2 years, quantifiable data that support what we can and can't do, what the feasibility studies can and can't do. I understand density, I understand, but we can't, and to talk about fixing 62, it's you can't, it's 62, it's a pass-through. It's like the city of Peabody, right, where I'm from originally. Downtown Peabody is always going to be what it is. You can't change it. They've tried for dozens and dozens of years. That 62 route is going to be a Middleton, Danvers, Beverly connection in perpetuity for as long as we are here. So I ask you that you don't support the amendment, the proposal for no action. I feel that if that was to be approved on, we'd be stuck in a quagmire of no action and just circles that we keep going around and around and not actually quantifiably fix the issue that we're talking about. So definitely not in support of that particular response. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Sir? And just a reminder, the amendment of no action is the one we're discussing. That's what's on the table.
Good evening, Alan McHarrison, Precinct 7. I'm not in favor of supporting this amendment. As other people have alluded to, it's the committees have put so much time into this, but it's not only the committees that have put time into this. We, the people of Danvers, have been invited to all of these meetings, and we have committed to these decisions. We have been a part of these decisions. So this isn't just a blind setup here. We have been engaged in this development through the years. So I vote against this amendment.
Thank you. Is there further there's a motion to move the question. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. We now turn to voting on Mr. Zubrick's motion to amend the Finance Committee recommendation to no action. A positive vote is in support of the amendment. A negative vote is against the amendment of no action. All those in favor of Mr. Zubrick's motion to amend to no action, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. The motion does not carry. We now turn back our attention to voting on the main motion. Is there further discussion? Mr. Trask.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, town meeting members. I just want to rise because I think that in the course of discussion, the ZBA may have gotten a bad rap that they don't deserve. The ZBA, appointed by the selectmen, represent applicants who want to try to, in some reason, not adhere to the zoning bylaws. Those are bylaws, laws, approved and ratified by the Attorney General. So an applicant comes and says, I'd like to not do something that's in the bylaw. And they have only 3 reasons for which they can approve that. It's either soil conditions, topology, or the shape of the land. So when you talk about the ZBA, a lot of times applicants will come, and because the zoning that we currently have does not mandate certain features, does not mandate certain standards, does not mandate certain design controls, they have to work in a vacuum. And an applicant today, by right, could build a 55-story building straight face right on the square. By providing the ZBA and the town with these design standards, with the 89 pages of language, with the 94 pages of design standards, it provides the ZBA with the ability to say, can't do that. It explicitly says it has to look like this, it has to feel like this, it has to be stepped back in that manner. It gives the ZBA teeth to have a holistic view of what downtown should look like. Otherwise, they have to look at each application on a case-by-case basis. And they are not the body to decide what the downtown of the future looks like. They can only react to the application. It's been suggested that this is a small area. Yes, downtown is not a large area, but people want to live and reside in a vibrant, living downtown where they can come out of their house and go to CVS and go to the market and walk back to their house. There was a question about affordable housing. This zoning is not designed to accommodate, for the accommodation of affordable housing. This is not a 40R location. There is language in there, however, very much like our current inclusionary zoning, that suggests that certain points of building, up to a certain threshold, you pay into the Affordable Housing Trust for the promotion of affordable housing, and after a certain number, you have to assign the apartments or condos, if it were, as affordable. That is 12.5%. And that's to make sure we don't just tread water where we are, but we actually get to a point where we're ahead of the 40B standards. Because there are developers waiting desirably to, if we fall behind 40B, to come in here and we'll get another swing away. We'll get some of the other 40Bs that we were forced to accept when we were below 10%. We are currently at 10.3%. We are just at that limit. When 2020 census comes out, we believe we'll be above that limit, but we want to make sure that we sustain that and build that. We're not asking for people to give away half of their development for affordable housing. We're saying after a certain number, we're looking for 12.5%. And it's not to give away an apartment, it's just to rent one at an affordable rate based on area income, Boston area income. So I don't want affordable housing to get a bad rap. This is not the reason this is being asked. I would ask you to consider the fact that the comments many people made. There were countless meetings, all public. There were countless workshops, all public, all invited. I don't want people to, and we all hear traffic, we all hear parking, we all hear density, but all of those were addressed. Maybe not to the satisfaction of certain people, but 1 bedroom has to have 1 parking spot. 2 bedrooms have to have 1.5, and 3 bedrooms have to have 2. They addressed parking. They looked at it. They understood. The planning board understood, and the experts who helped us understood this would be an issue. And that's the responsibility of the developer. I ask you to vote facts, not feelings. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? We're now ready to take a vote on the recommendation of the Finance Committee. Yes? There has been a motion for a roll call vote. Is there a second? Second. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor of a roll call vote, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. That motion does not carry. We now turn to voting the main motion of the Finance Committee. This requires, as it's zoning, a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the recommendation of the Finance Committee, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. The motion carries, and so the motion has passed. That's the end of our warrant for this evening. Is there a motion to dissolve? No. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Meeting dissolved. See you in May.